Reddit, what is the worst party you have ever attended? I was invited to a toga party. Huge party. Maybe 60 plus people in a bungalow style house. Not one girl showed up. 60 guys gathered together in togas with no women present is just called the Senate. One of the many graduation parties I went to after high school. It was an awesome party for an hour or so, then some 17-year-old showed up with her baby and kept insisting people keep it down so she could get the baby to sleep and have some time to herself and to party. My dad planned a big Christmas party a few years ago. Invited all of his friends from work. A bunch of other people. Went out and spent about $250 on food booze. Not a single person showed up. At least I had lots of snacks to eat and booze to drink. I felt really bad for him though. An office Christmas party at an officially sanctioned company event. But an informal gathering at a co-worker's house. No bosses were there. At some point my wife looked at me and said, "You're drunk. You need to get home." Now. I don't know what made her say that. I'm not an obnoxious drunk. I don't get into arguments with people or say outrageous things. I might have been slurring my words a little. But I wasn't on the point of falling down or throwing up. But I trusted her judgment. So I'll let her drive me home. I was drunk enough that I went straight to bed and fell sound asleep. So what did my wife do? She went back to the party without me. And ended up making out with one of my co-workers. This was my first wife. In college I went to a singles mixer organized by NRA. I knew it wouldn't be a drinking party. But I assumed it would be sort of like a cocktail reception where I could meet some single women. The NRA who organized it was in a counseling program. And decided the best format was to sit everyone in a group like a group therapy setting. She then asked everyone to go around the room and talk about who they are. Then what they are looking for. An sort preference and so on. And on. And on. It was long and weird and really personal for a group setting. At the end you would assume she would use the speed dating format where we could discreetly write a few names we liked and if there is a match they would connect us. Nope. We were asked to go around the room and in a safe and open setting tell us someone you felt a connection with and we could be paired up. The RA went first. She picked the hottest guy in the room. He said, "Oh, sorry. I'm more interested in someone else." And that ended the entire evening on the spot. My own birthday party. It was during my high school years. I had invited about 5 friends over. Which was all my friends. Everything was ready, snacks, games to play. And I'm waiting for my friends to show up. None of them do. Instead, my brother invites his friends over. It ended up pretty good, the snacks didn't get wasted. And at least somebody showed up. It seems you guys have misinterpreted my brother's actions. His friends didn't hang out with me at all. Still better than nobody, I guess. Was a date to a female friend's cousin's wedding. The father of the bride died of a heart attack during the reception. A horrible, horrible night. Office Christmas party, law firm, at a fancy seafood restaurant. Midway through the appetizer one of the manager partners stands up to give a toast. The partnership is dissolved. So we were all out of work but told to please enjoy the meal. It is Christmas. No one be glum. New Year's Eve party at my parents' house. Just as the clock struck midnight my dad set off possibly the biggest firework I've ever seen and heard. The sound of it was so loud in fact that it killed my sister's hamster. A lot of screaming and crying followed. Sounds like your dad used the Hamsterdam 3000 doggo. A Mormon wedding reception. No alcohol. String quartet playing. No dancing and 4 hours of listening to family members reminisce about the bride and her life leading up to this momentous occasion. The marriage lasted 1 year. TL. Doctor, don't go to Mormon wedding receptions. Right out of high school. There was this Mormon chick I started hooking up with. After she got bored with me, she banged several of my friends for a while then moved. For some reason, she invited me to her wedding. I must have heard no less than 5 people mention how she kept herself pure during her time outside of Utah. Coincidentally, I also know 5 people that FK'd her in the ass. Haven't been to that many parties, but this one stood out for its weirdness. A couple was throwing a holiday party. I knew the husband, who was a computer tech worker. His wife was a fashion photographer. So basically, half the people at the party were nerdy computer guys, and the other half were gorgeous women who worked as high fashion models. Let me tell you, the guys were very interested in mixing, and the women were not. Birthday party for a friend of mine when me and him were both maybe 5 years old. In front of everyone, I was firmly pulled aside by the arm by the birthday boy's mother for busting the piñata too early. I was then told that I was ruining the party, that I almost hit the birthday boy's dad with the little wiffle bat that we were using, and that I should be better behaved or she would tell my parents. In my defense, I was blindfolded. The piñata was being moved up and down, so it was all fair game. I was also never told that we were trying to make the piñata last. Also, how much damage can a 5-year-old kid with a wiffle bat do to a grown man? I had a friend from high school invite me and 3 other friends over for what he described as a party. We thought that it might be a small gamer party with some nerdy board games or something, as there were only the 3 of us plus him and his wife. His wife then proceeds to start an hour-and-a-half presentation about Arbonne and tries to sell female beauty products to a group of males between the ages of 19 and 22. I was astounded. Work Christmas party. Fed some banquet spiced chicken. If you've ever been to any catered conference ever, you know what I'm talking about, which wasn't cooked all the way through and nearly immediately made me ill. Which would have been fine if we weren't caught out watching a corporate video for 45 minutes. I was at the front, and there was a weird "you probably shouldn't leave right now" energy that I abided. My stomach sounded like Bobby McFerrin singing underwater. A girl I was dating at the time and I went to a large off-campus party, mostly of people we barely knew. It was a mixed group of straight and gay, mostly music majors and drama performing arts students, along with a variety of others. As the party progressed, we noticed that people kept disappearing without saying goodbye, so that the main room had fewer and fewer in it. At one point when the music stopped, we noticed noise coming from down the long bedroom hallway as we made our way to the bathroom. When the master bedroom door opened, the dimly lit room was filled with people from the party having a private orgy on the bed, on the floor, standing up or on chairs. It was hard to tell who was doing what, and with whom. Just sort of a free-for-all. We didn't get roped into it, but left. Tried to find the host, but he wasn't in the main room or kitchen. If an orgy was part of his plan, he never mentioned it. Was pouring at a brew fest. Got invited to a hotel party later that night by another brewery rep. Was supposed to be a great party with lots of breweries in attendance. Showed up. It was just that brewery rep, making garlic bread, and his drunk as hell, mostly naked girlfriend. I think you might have got invited to a threesome. I was at a pool party. By nightfall everyone was pretty wasted. One of the guests thought it would be funny to fill a Jägermeister bottle with Ipecac and offer shots to the people in the pool. 12 or so people did a shot and were so wasted that they didn't care that it tasted funny. A few minutes later it was a total puke fest in the pool. Kinda like that scene from Family Guy, but in water, so everyone was screaming and scrambling to get out as the pukes whirled around them. Mandatory work Christmas party at a restaurant. We had to buy our own food, and then the very next day they let a bunch of people go. One of my then boyfriend's friends had a party. Everyone starts drinking. Then they all start making out. He neglected to tell me it was some orgy thing. I called a cab. Got invited to a hotel party by some girl I liked in high school. Turned out just a bunch of high school kids smoking crack. What the FCK? Child's birthday party. Parents swapped cute stories about their kids' bowel movements, etc. Kids ran around screaming at each other. There was no alcohol. No adult food. To top it off, the hostess was into health food, so the only snacks was a variety of raw fruit. Try being a parent. This describes most of the parties I go to nowadays. Bonus points if the kid has allergies. Recognizing that. It's ribs, wings and beer when my kids have a party. Bring your EpiPen. I was on an outdoor party with a big tower in the middle. One drunk guy made his way to the tower with some glass bottle and threw them into the masses. I wasn't hit by any bottle, but a friend of mine had to leave for the hospital. The guy on the tower was mental. When I was in high school one spring break, a guy who I'd say sort of friends with, friendly in school but never hung out one-on-one, told me he was having a party and named all the hot chicks from our school who'd be there. Frankly, I was a little surprised to be thought of or included. I went to his house, and not one other person turned up. He was a popular kid, arguably more popular than me. That wasn't so bad. But the slightly eerie part was he never mentioned the party again. Perhaps out of embarrassment. Which is understandable. But couldn't help but kinda wonder if he'd kill me or something. Like some animal who'd fallen into a trap. Nope. We got high and watched Biloxi Blues. Not a terrible night. But I'd say the worst party I've been to. In that there was none. Also, he shot a blowgun dart at me that went into the wall above my head. Sounds like he wanted you over but was too shy to ask. A wedding reception and dinner which was, for some reason, overbooked. Though there was plenty of food. There literally were not enough places to sit. And no assigned seating. The worst part of it was, there would have been plenty of seats if only people had agreed to eat in shifts. But the people who arrived first saved seats for their friends. We tried sitting in several places. But each time, someone spoke up and said, "Sorry, that seat's saved." At any given time, half the seats were empty because the people who had claimed them were off talking to someone at another table. After going through the buffet line, my wife and I had to go outside and sit on the concrete steps while we ate. And while mosquitoes ate us alive, we left as soon as we were done eating. And my wife is a musician who played during the wedding. She had refused payment because she was a friend of the bride. At the end of the wedding, we had to pack up her sound equipment. Which is why we were among the last to arrive at the reception. Last New Year's, a work friend brought me and my brother to a party in someone's home. For some reason their home only consisted of one couch, a long nightstand, one of those old antenna TVs, a table, a sink, no toilet. They had made sangria and used a sink to hold it, and a window that led to part of the roof. The only people there were 3 girls playing beer pong on the nightstand and 2 men. Large black twins both wearing striped shirts sitting on either side of the couch. Those 2 reminded me of Tweedledee and Tweedledum, ended up being pretty friendly though. When the ball was about to drop, the TV conked out. I got so drunk off the sink sangria that I ended up out that window on the roof, throwing up into the street below. My brother and I left 10 minutes after the ball dropped and never talked about it again. I went to a 3-hour christening party for a baby whose mother my wife met at a baby group. We had nothing in common with them, and had to sit through a Baptist ceremony that meant nothing to us. With our 3-month-old in attendance. He was bored and was happy to share his irritation by screaming. In college, some high school classmates of mine sent me an invite to a party they were throwing a few streets from the house I was living in. My buddy from back home made the trip to the town where I go to school. We went to another party where he got blackout drunk. Decided to leave and head over to the original party. We get there and it is literally over. Only a few people showed up and they left pretty early. We are leaving and drunk friend bumps into 2 guys walking down the street. Turns out we were right in front of their frat house. Drunk friend proceeds to talk shitty. I beg them to let me just take him home because he's really drunk. Before I can finish my sentence, drunk friend punches the guy on the sidewalk and he starts getting his ass kicked. Guys are pouring out of this frat house. I tried to pull the dude off of my buddy and ended up getting my ass kicked too. I was pissed at him for a while over that one. Probably will be buried. But here goes. Became friendly with a bunch of French people while living in a non-European city. They all seemed like nice, intelligent folks. One day one of them invited me to his birthday party. When I got there, the host immediately laughed at the bottle of whiskey I'd brought as a present, Jameson's, and offered to pour me some good whiskey. I kind of laughed it off. But then things got worse. Everyone was speaking French, and they refused to speak to me. I went from group to group, trying to make conversation. People would politely answer me in English and keep speaking French. It was like a f***ing nightmare. They all knew I wasn't a French speaker. Why did they invite me? Finally I went out on the balcony to smoke a cigarette and regroup. This dude comes out and starts speaking to me in French. Even I could tell his French was horrible and he was not a native speaker. I start yelling at him to speak to me in English, and he runs off. I downed my drink and left. Senior year college house party. It started off okay. A good sized crowd. A few drinks. Takeaway pizzas galore and everyone playing this board game called Articulate. By the next morning, two of the hosts who had started the night as a couple were now in a, shall we say, a gaping open relationship. One of the bathrooms had been redecorated in vomit, including ceiling. Honestly, I was impressed. One guest had been outed to his Bible-bashing parents via Skype. Another stole a suitcase. A third managed to somehow fall out of the attic conversion. Then back into the house, then down the main staircase, all while projectile shitting. I don't even know how. But what really ruined it for me was someone stole my favorite pair of gloves. So I liberated a bottle of Jack Daniels that survived the evening as compensation. What I'm taking away from this is that if I ever find myself at a party where everyone just starts f***ing, vomiting, and shitting everywhere, I should just start stealing things and leave. Because no one's going to be able to sort it out through all the bodily fluids. Back in college I had really bad social anxiety. I basically hadn't really worked on my social skills at the time. So parties made me extremely nervous. My girlfriend at the time babysat for this woman who was in AA who invited us over for a party. So there I was, at a party where I literally didn't know anyone there besides my girlfriend. Everyone there was like 20 years older than me and had hit rock bottom at some point. No alcohol anywhere to be found, generally. Even back then, if I had couple of drinks I'd loosen up and feel much less awkward, because the hostess and all of her friends were in AA. My one saving throw if things got too intense was to go outside and smoke a cigarette. The only problem being that basically 100% of AA people smoke. So when I went outside, the whole party followed me. That was far and away the longest afternoon of my life. I've attended some pretty bad ones. But here's some highlights from a few. Husband's Christmas work party. CEO's wife got super drunk and took the mic away from him while he was making the usual rah-rah hooray for the company speech. She slurred a bunch of nonsense at us. And then terrified the shitty out of a month-old baby by trying to do baby talk into the mic while hammered. New Year's party. Ex got stupid drunk and was being really obnoxious. A mutual friend of ours, there with his GF, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You could do so much better." Also, Ex's drunken best friend put Harvest Moon by Neil Young on repeat for over an hour while pontificating about sports. I spent the night cleaning up vomit and putting drunks to bed in the recovery position. My Christmas work party. VP made out with a barely legal young woman from filing, while his wife waited at their table. Co-worker barfed on our manager's shoes, copiously. Guy took a picture of his dick with a co-worker's phone while she was socializing and dancing. Bunch of bathroom stall hookups. I was at a pretty fun party in HS. But then a gun was pulled. Instant crowd killer, although no one actually got shot or died. I shared office space with an accounting firm and the accounting firm invited me to their holiday party one year. I end up sitting kind of near two of the accountants' wives and overhear their conversation. It essentially was how one of them was complaining about something her young son was doing, totally normal bitching by a parent, and then the other wife says, "Oh, that's nothing. We had to take little Timmy to see a psychiatrist because he was afraid to eat soup." I thought I misheard her and she said it again like 3 more times. So Monday when I get back to the office, I'm talking to one of the other accountants who was bitching about how boring the party was, and I mentioned the soup story. He instantly says, "Oh yeah. Totally true. That kid is so f***ed up because of his parents. Being afraid of soup is a special level of crazy that only parents can cause."